A very good afternoon, Zimbabwe, and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. We continue to take a look on what is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe. The government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, they've warned potential protesters to stay away from any form of protest. This is Nick Mangwana, the government spokesperson. He sent a message and says, Regerai Vakomana. This comes after a report that the police are on high alert nationally to deal with some obscure groups who are threatening to mount protests. So you can actually see that whatever way or whichever way the groups of Ananyokai Mabunu and others, they are being taken seriously in terms of the kind of protests which they are threatening to unleash in Zimbabwe. According to the constitution, peaceful protests are allowed, and according to the new laws of MOPA, you need to get clearance from the police. However, the groups have said even if the police denies them clearance, they will still peacefully march in the streets of Harare. And their demands are that corruption is dealt with, 2030 agenda is disbanded, and corrupt crooks like Wicknell Chivayo get arrested and being thrown into prison. However, instead of the police and the government to respond to the demands, they are actually threatening to arrest them and to make sure that they stop them. According to this report, the authorities have issued a fresh warning that they will deal ruthlessly with all unsanctioned gatherings and protests in the country. The country's most influential newspaper, Daily News, reported about this issue. Police National Spokesperson Paul Nyati also revealed yesterday that law enforcement agents had intensified their surveillance of suspicious and ill-intentioned activities, including on social media. This comes as political tension is once again rising in the country amid mooted plans by some shadow groups to mount unauthorized mass demonstrations in urban areas. And they have said that we are on high alert with a visible presence across the country to ensure law and order prevails nationwide. This is what is happening. The police, they have actually promised to unleash terror on everybody or anybody who is going to be part and parcel of those protests. And we hope and believe that everyone in Zimbabwe or everyone who will participate in these protests, if they are to happen, will be safe. We know our police in terms of how brutal they are. We know our police in terms of how heavy-handed they are on protesters. So the biggest problem which we have is that the constitution, which is the supreme law, allows for peaceful protest to happen only for a secondary law to say otherwise, and that is against the constitution itself. And I hope and believe that in the future there are certain people or individuals who need to be held accountable for these crimes, because each and every violation of the constitution must have consequences. And everyone who relies more on secondary laws more than the primary law, which is the constitution, will have to face the consequences. That is my view. Brian says, when the time has come, muchadzokera ku UK. Okay, and Nick Mangwana is defiant and says, your wish. Okay, so the thinker asks and says, aren't protests enshrined in the constitution? And Nick Mangwana says, the operative word is unsanctioned. The constitution does not instruct anybody to get sanctioned from anyone. That is not what the constitution says. The constitution is clear that people are supposed to peacefully protest. It doesn't point to any other law. It simply says peacefully. So the key word is peaceful. As long as the protests are peaceful, then there is no problem. There is no need to request for that permission from anyone according to the constitution. However, according to the law of MOPA, then that is when you need to apply. And also, if you apply, the police does not have any right to prohibit anybody or to stop anybody from protesting. They must simply agree on the issues of peace. How are you going to conduct your protests, and how are you going to ensure peace? And the answer will be the police will be there to accompany protesters. Go to South Africa. You will notify the police, and the police will accompany you. They will mobilize resources and they will accompany you. Vachitori kumberi, imi muri kumashure muchiprotesta makabata maplacards enyu, vamwe vari kumashure, vamwe vari pakati penyu, just to make sure that there is a maintenance of law and order. Just to make sure that unruly elements does not come from anywhere and join you and start to cause commotions and violence. That is what common sense must tell. So Nick says, aren't you already protesting here and nothing is happening to you? There is your answer. So why is it that in the protests, in the streets, people are not allowed to protest? Why? We have seen so many people who have been arrested simply because they have aired their views. For example, Job Sikala stayed for a very long time. People like Namatai Kwekweza, we have a lot of them who have been in prison in and out simply because they have expressed their views against this government. So we will wait to see what is going to happen, because this is Isisu Basaredu is to report what is happening, and this is what the government has said and the police have said on their own side, and we will be waiting to see the other side who are actually programming to have this protest, to see how they are going to outmaneuver each other, how they are going to go about it. Isisu Chedu, as the people in the media, we will be here to report it as it happened. Kana vapinda murodi, we will be reporting. Kana varambizwa kupinda murodi again, we will be reporting. Thank you very much everyone for coming.